Well, great. Welcome, everybody. So good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Boise Public Hearing Examiner meeting. Just a few things to start out with for tonight's proceeding. We do have Zoom. Right now, we don't have anyone online for Zoom, so I'm just going to skip this section. Just quickly, our procedures for public hearings begin with a presentation from the planning team. Then we'll go to the applicant and then the representative of a registered neighborhood association if they happen to be here. This will be followed by questions from the hearing examiner. After that, we'll proceed to public testimony, starting with those who are in person, then those who signed up on the sign-up sheet in advance, and finally those online. Each speaker, when they come up, should start with their name and address for the record. And each member of the public is allowed 3 minutes for testimony. We are strict with this time as it is limited in code. And then finally, the applicant is allowed time for rebuttal, after which the hearing will be closed and the hearing examiner will deliberate and render a decision. And so for this evening, we have 3 variances on the docket. The first one at 1722 West Franklin Street is a variance to encroach in the front and rear setbacks. Planning team is recommending partial approval. So we will be discussing that one. We don't have anyone signed up in advance for it. The second variance will be at 1324 East Candle Ridge Drive. This is a variance to encroach into the rear setback and deviate from the wildland urban interface overlay standards. We are recommending denial on that. So we will hear that and discuss. Again, we don't have anyone signed up for that one. And then finally, the third item on the agenda this afternoon is a variance for the Capitol High School at 8055 West Goddard Road for a variety of things. We'll get into the recommendation on each one of those when we get to that presentation. But yeah, we will hear that. And I don't see anyone signed up in advance for that either. So with that, I'll let you take it away, Mr. Gillespie.
You good and you ready to roll there, Tech? Okay. All systems go. I just see that guy standing out there. I hope he doesn't want to come in. Okay, he's waving at me. So, good afternoon. I'm an independent decision maker hired by the City of Boise and approved by the City Council. This afternoon, I'll make decisions on variances and administrative appeals. Any request to reconsider these decisions must be formally requested in writing pursuant to City Code. The only appellate channel available to you after this hearing, if you decide to do an appeal versus a reconsideration, is to go see a district court. Tonight or today, we only use a consent agenda to adopt findings related to previous decisions. All items that are placed on the consent agenda are approved without further public comment. For items not on the consent agenda, we will hold a full public hearing in the order just detailed a few minutes ago with staff. So we don't have anything on the consent agenda tonight. It looks like we'll be hearing everything. So thank you all for attending. My name is Milt Gillespie, and I will be the hearing examiner this afternoon. So with that, we'll move on to item number 1 and Ms. Mbappe.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gillespie. The item before you is CVA 25-00014, a variance to encroach into the front and rear setbacks for an existing single-family residence located at 1722 Franklin Street, West Franklin Street, in an R2 residential compact zone. The single-family residence was built in 1900 prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance in 1966. The house was built 9 feet from the front property line and 5 feet from the rear property line, where 10 feet and 15 feet are typically required by the R2 zone. The home includes a crawl space and a partial basement beneath the main floor. The perimeter foundation matches the encroaching footprint of the main level. The crawl space is proposed to be converted into a fully functional basement that expands downwards within the existing footprint and will be encroaching into the front and rear setbacks. The applicant is also requesting a second-story addition and a window well into the rear setback. As highlighted in your project report, there is a hardship associated with the site that justifies the variance request for the basement remodel. The crawl space is in deteriorating state and it's contributing to issues that could affect the structural integrity of the house. As shown on the screen and I highlighted in the project report, the remodeled basement will be used as additional habitable space. The applicant has proposed egress windows on the western side of the building with one, which you can see in red, encroaching into the rear setback. The planning team is not able to support the variance for the encroaching window well as there is no hardship and the window wells could be relocated to the eastern side of the building. The planning team is also unable to support the variance for the second story addition. The proposal introduces a nonconformity in a way that could further increase visual impacts and privacy concerns for adjacent properties. The request is also a design choice and not a necessity. The applicant has not demonstrated that conforming alternatives are infeasible. In fact, as shown on the screen, reducing approximately 128 square feet from the rear of the proposed addition will make the addition compliant with code. In conclusion, the planning team recommends approval of the variance for the basement encroachment into the front and rear setbacks and denial of the variances for the second story addition and window well additions encroachment into the rear setback. Thank you, and I'll stand by any questions you have.
Thank you, Danielle. All right, now the applicant's turn. And please state your name and address for the record.
Is this on? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Eamon Park, Park
Lift that just a
Architecture,
little bit higher.
Park Architecture,
Perfect.
2406 West Norcrest Drive, Boise, Idaho, 83705. We don't really have a whole lot to add other, from the presentation that Danielle just went through, other than what we're proposing to do is inside of the existing original footprint of the house. Really what we're proposing to do is improve what has deteriorated over the last 125 years. I would like to point out that to the east side of the house where the planning department has proposed to put that second egress window is currently a driveway to the existing single car garage. And as far as expanding and the second level addition, it's really, has been designed in a way to, again, stay within that existing original footprint of the house and just grow upward, raising the peak of the ridge roof, the roof ridge about 4.5 feet. So, as far as privacy and visibility, et cetera, as part of this process, as I'm sure you're aware, we held a neighborhood meeting. Nobody attended. The neighbors have only voiced positivity for the project. And so our opinion basically is that the setback encroachments, et cetera, really are just a byproduct of the zoning code that was adopted 66 years after this house was originally constructed. So, we would hope that there would be some consideration for specifically the second level addition, but the second egress window as well when viewing, overall cost of construction, attempt to improve this structure. Although outside of the historic district, it is a historic structure, and we're really just only trying to design it in a way that makes it visually appealing in the same way that the original house was constructed, but bringing it up to modern standards. So that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, sir. Please stand by. So is there anyone here from I guess it's NENA, North End Neighborhood Association? Oh, that'd be you. Okay, it's your minute of fame. Please state your name and address for the record.
Eric Hagan, 809 North 18th Street.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Examiner Gillespie. I live right around the corner, actually, from these guys, about a block away. And since they've moved into the neighborhood, they've really activated that corner and really made it great. And we really like what they've done. Their property is on a transition zone between the shopping center to the south and the R1C to the north. And as you may know, there was currently a request to change zoning just north of this to help expand that transition zone, but it was denied. And what the applicant here is trying to do is work within the confines of the existing fabric of the neighborhood and not go too big. They're trying to match houses that are right next door to them and trying to get higher density, which we all want, to be able to have more rooms, more places for people to live without impacting the neighborhood. And their lot is a very odd lot right on the corner. I think they got like 20 feet on 18th. I mean, there's not much room there, and it creates that hardship there for them. So we've discussed this amongst the historic committee and myself and the planning and zoning committee, and we're in support of their application.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. So now it's question time. All right. So Ms. Mbappe, could you go back a few to your chart? One more. That one. So I'm just a little confused in the project report figure 1, the site plan. It has the window 90 degrees shifted, so it's sticking up to the, I always get this confused on the map. That way, instead of as you're showing it in the proposal pointing to the east. So I think they have it. Am I reading that wrong? You can come and look.
That's directly from the floor plan from the applicant.
Pardon?
That's directly from the floor plan, the applicant's floor plans.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this figure 1. It shows the window right here. Like that.
Yes,
And
I
then-
think it's, my understanding is that it's still the same, except that the window is still, like the part out back is still encroaching into that rear setback on the site plan.
So then go forward. I'm just confused as to what is that says proposed and then it has a red circle? Is that what you think they should do?
No, that's the egress window. That's
Right, but is that,
that will be encroaching into the rear setback. Currently, there's no egress window on the site, on what's existing.
can we go back to the other slide you showed me? So what's that thing sticking out?
Those are the stairs.
That thing right there. Yeah.
Yeah,
What is
those-
that? Is that an egress window?
No, those are the stairs to the rear. The
Oh,
egress
so that's
windows
the
will be here.
existing stairway.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, my bad, sorry. Just, and again, you got to say your name and address, because there's AI that does
I
all
got it.
this.
Damon Park, 2406 West Norcrest Drive. Where's the Idaho? The first level with the green triangular shaped
Mm-hmm.
view is looking at the basement and proposed basement bedroom egress windows, both proposed at the west side of the house.
That way.
Right. That view that you're seeing now is essentially an aerial overhead of the site plan, including a proposed staircase from the first level
Okay,
out to the backyard.
all right.
Yeah.
So question for the city, stay there. Sir. Ms. Mbappe, does the proposed stairway on this one, does that also encroach into the setback, or because it's,
The
Let's-
stairs also encroach into the setback.
but you're not mentioning that in the staff report?
The stairs appeared on the existing site plan, so the way staff looked at it as it was that those were
Oh,
existing
so they're already
stairs.
there.
That was my understanding as I
That's
was
correct.
reviewing the application, because they
That's
were on the
correct.
existing
Those-
site plan.
Those are proposed stairs, new stairs.
So those are new stairs.
Yeah.
Does the city? Could you guys straighten this out for me?
Yeah. So are they uncovered stairs?
The proposal is for them to be uncovered, correct?
Okay, so those would be allowed to encroach uncovered stairs typically.
Because they
right?
don't constitute an encroachment, like, so their class is like a fence or, not a 6 foot tall structure.
Yeah, could you just confirm if they're just going up to the main level? though,
Just
right?
up
Yeah,
from ground level
Right.
to the main level.
So why aren't the egress windows, which I assume are not, they're also sort of stairs coming up out of a window well, right?
Yeah, correct. I mean, they would be basically a small ladder up to just above grade to exit
Mhm.
a basement safely in the case of a fire or flood, et cetera.
So I'm just having trouble understanding why an egress window would be an encroachment, but the stairs which are going up, are not an encroachment. That's where I'm at right now on that question.
Yeah, usually I believe I'd have to check the language of the code to see what the allowed encroachment is for egress windows versus stairs, and also check the site plan, and I will refer back to you in a few minutes.
Okay, well,
And Mr.
I have to
Gillespie,
make a
yeah,
decision now, or we have to defer it till you guys get that clarified.
Mr.
So,
Gillespie, I've
Kevin,
got
go ahead.
the section of code that speaks to encroachments up on the screen, so we can look at this.
Ah, here we are. Got it.
Let me just find, I think we speak to. Here we have stair, railing, and landing without roof, which I believe is what the stairs would be classified under. May extend up to 6 feet into the rear setback,
Okay.
and window wells right below there may extend up to 3 feet.
So, and so technically, how far do these window wells go into the setback?
I would have to open up the.
Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know the answer specifically or precisely.
They look. So that's just, is it like a flat area so that the windows can open and then a space and then there's a vertical wall with a ladder?
Yes.
And how deep is that? 6 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet?
I mean, it depends on how deep the basement is, but typically, 4.5 feet to 3
Okay.
feet. It's really just a way for to provide legal
Okay.
egress.
Great, thanks. Stay there, please.
Mr.
Kevin, go ahead.
Gillespie, I think some of the confusion here is the stairs were shown on in a site plan that was referenced as existing. So the planning team assumed that those were existing stairs and thus not part of this variance request.
Okay. So, is there any objection to deferring this till next month when we can get all this straightened out on exactly what isn't in the variance request? Or do you want me to try and rule today?
I would ask the applicant.
I mean, our preference would be to rule today. It's already been deferred once, but if it's necessary,
All right,
we could talk to the homeowners. Suppose.
okay. Thank you. All right, I don't have any more questions, so we'll now go to public hearing. And the first person on the sign up sheet is Alexis Bayan. Please get to come forward. So just give your name, address, pull that thing down so you're comfortable. Just give your name and address for the record.
Okay, thank you. Alexis Bayan, 1722 West Franklin Street.
Ms. Bayan.
I just wanted to echo what Eamon reiterated in that we do have concerns about the proposal to move the egress window from the west side of the house to the east side of the house. It's not as simple as just flipping our proposed plan, as our driveway is there. In addition, with regard to the second story, we're not located in the historic district, and we could potentially do something much taller within the setback that doesn't honor the historic district. But our desire is to maintain the look and the feel of our historic property and the integrity of the home as best as we can. And alternating our plan to bring in the second story would require us to change the pitch of the house, and it would greatly impact the symmetry and the look, the authentic look of the home. If not for the shape of the lot and the pre-existing location on the home, which has already been stated, predates any code set by the city of Boise, the additional massing and height would not be an issue. And despite the property lines, our neighboring house at issue is well beyond 20 feet away. And so we feel that our plan would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or impair the use or development of the adjacent property. And again, just to reiterate, our neighbors have expressed nothing but positive support for our project.
Thank you, Ms. Bain. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else here in the room tonight who'd like to testify in this matter? Okay, is there anyone online who'd like to testify in this matter? All right, so that means we're to rebuttal. You have 5 minutes to rebut any testimony that you have heard or anything you want. So, or you can say, Mr. Chairman or Mr. Gillespie, I waive the right of rebuttal. Your choice. Okay, so the applicant has waived the right rebuttal. So that closes the public portion of the hearing. The chicken got away. So the item is now before me. So let me think for just a minute. So with the applicant's permission, I'd like to defer this and I kind of need your permission to do it. If you don't want to defer, I'll reach a decision today. But the reason I'd like you to think about a referral is because the city apparently has new information with respect to the stairway. And this is a historic home, and I very much respect that and what you're trying to do. And because it's a historic home, I think it's important for us to kind of get this variance right, or at least from my point of view, to get it right. And so I'd like to defer it to clarify a couple of issues. One, the city's position on the new stairway, and two, the city's exact position on the egress windows. And I think the city needs better understanding exactly how big, how long, how deep, and how tall the egress windows and the stairs are, because we're talking about, 2, 3, 4, 6, like the code is pretty small numbers, right? For the allowable amount into a setback. And I'm a little uncomfortable not knowing those exact numbers. What exactly we're looking at in terms of how it exactly fits in the code. So I'm going to let you guys think about it for a minute, 60 seconds. I'm going to have a drink of water, and then you can tell me what you'd like to do. Guy's gone to sleep. I feel the same. Yeah, please come on up, because we got to do this on the record apart, because deferrals are always tricky.
Sure.
So please.
Amon Park, 2406 West Norcrest
Perfect.
Drive,
Thank
Boise. We accept the deferral.
All right.
Recommendation of deferral.
So Kevin, we're going to defer this to next month. And if you guys could work with the applicant and come up with, the exact spacing on this vis-a-vis the setbacks. And then if that changes your recommendation, or if you have to add something about this stairwell, I think it's pretty important we get that out on the record right away. Because in some sense, if I just look at this drawing, the stairwell is kind of, depending on how the numbers shake out, kind of a bigger sticking into the setback than the egress windows, which are, low to the ground and like the top of a ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think you guys should take another look at that, and we'll discuss it next month.
Understood,
Right.
Mr. Gillespie. Yeah, if we could just get on the record that will be the September 24th hearing date, so we don't have to repost things.
So I'm going to defer this till September 24th. Try and answer those questions. We'll get back to you.
Just to clarify, that'll
Yeah.
include the second story addition as well, correct?
We're going to have a new hearing on the whole shebang, right?
Yep.
So we'll have a de novo hearing on the whole variance. and any other stuff you guys find between now and then.
Okay.
But just let me say to both you guys, you got to get it straight as to what is new, what is old, how big,
Yeah.
because I need to get down to little numbers
Got it.
on like how far and stuff. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. On to item number 2. Miss Mbappe.
Good. Good afternoon again, Mr. Gillespie. The item before you is CVA 25-00023, a variance to encroach into the rear setback and deviate from the WUIS standards for a property located at 1324 East Candle Ridge Drive next to the Fort Military Reserve in an R1B with a hillside development and a wheel overlay zone. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow an addition comprised of the living room, garage, and deck to extend into the 15-foot rear setback and encroach into the 30-foot rear setback. The applicant contends that the lot is irregular in shape and this physical constraint creates a hardship. The applicant also referenced previous variance approvals granted to nearby property as well as the subject property itself to justify the variance. The applicant has asserted that the variance will not be a special privilege or be in conflict with the public interest and the neighborhood. For all the reasons highlighted in the project report and summarized on your screen, the project does not comply with any of the approval criteria for a variance. In conclusion, the planning team recommends denial, and I'll stand by any questions you may have.
Yes. Eric Hagan, 280 North 8th Street. Trying to get my hats right. We have a presentation. Okay. Thank you. I was going to say Commissioner, but Examiner Gillespie. A lot of hats there. All right. So we're asking for 2 variances here. Well, a variance and an alternative compliance, basically. The existing property is right along the open space, as Ms. Mbappe had mentioned. The existing property line or the setback that's granted for our property is 20 feet. In comparison to the neighbors, it's 13.5 feet to the property to the west. And the property to the east has actually been granted up to 6 feet for their wood deck and spa. And both those houses are wood-framed, wood-clad houses. My client's house is a wood-framed brick-clad house, just for comparison. Basically, our hardship is not the fact that these variances were requested, but they are there. And the neighbors to the left and the right basically have special privileges, special rights and privileges above and beyond what my client currently is able to enjoy. The lots all along this street are odd shaped. To say that they're anything but really confuses me, because a regular shaped lot is rectangular or square. These ones are all trapezoids with different angles on every single one. And that's the reason, one of the reasons it was given in the past. I know those don't create precedent, but it's worth considering. And so what's left over from this odd shaped lot to do the addition, what the client wants, which is an addition to the garage and a living space that juts out more from the existing residence, we have a limited area to build out to. And so we were looking at the original setback requirement of 20 feet. And as is listed in chapter 1102 of the code. And we were requesting down to 15 feet so they could get a larger living room in there, so they could actually enjoy the property like their neighbors are. Going beyond that, we have a defensible zone requirement. I've done a number of projects in wildland urban interface overlay areas, both in Boise and beyond. And I thought I was familiar with the code, but this is the first time anyone's really pushed on the 30-foot defensible zone as being a setback. As I mentioned, setbacks are in chapter 1102. for the zones. And to get to this, the line in the code that refers to it as being a setback is kind of a convoluted and error-driven way. So when you first Google wildland urban interface in Boise, section 110207 comes up, and in there it says the compliance is required per the wildland urban interface fire code as set forth in chapter 14 of the Boise City Code. And I just checked that online, and that's still what the code says online. The defensible space is called for a 30-foot defensible space around the perimeter of each principal dwelling. In no way, shape, or form do either of those say that it's all has to be on one property. You Google a little further, the 2018 International Wildland Urban Interface Code calls a defensible space a 30 feet to the lot line, or 30 feet or to the lot line, whichever is less. Again, not saying it's a setback all on one property. So you go a little bit further, and thanks to Ms. Mbappe, she pointed me to the correct chapter. It's not chapter 14, but chapter 12. And again, I was Googling the defensible space and looking just for the defensible space, and I get to the section on defensible space. It's called defensible space. Fuel modification distance shall be at least 30 feet. Distance is measured at a horizontal plane from the perimeter or projection of the building structure. Again, doesn't say anything about setbacks. But if you go back earlier in that chapter, it actually does talk about the setback. And this is the first place it's actually ever mentioned. Undeveloped natural open space, and undeveloped natural open space is a key underlying here for a reason. The minimum required setback from any portion of the structure shall be undeveloped natural open space shall be not less than 30 feet. So you look at the International Urban Wildland Interface Code, and it allows for the defensible zone to cross property lines. So here's a couple definitions. This is from the Boise City Code. Open space is a developed amenity for the city. Developed open space is not defined in the Boise Code, but undeveloped land is where vacant land and no improvements or infrastructure have occurred. Then I just Googled, is the Boise Military Reserve a developed natural space? And the Google World said it's a mixed-use natural area that is moderately developed for recreation and that the city manages. And so I said, is there such a thing as developed natural space? And again, it came back, yes, natural developed space is natural environments that have been intentionally modified by humans. Unlike purely untouched wilderness, a development natural space is cultivated to serve a specific purpose, such as recreation. There's bike trails, hiking trails, all up and down this. There's a couple of structures within less than a quarter of a mile. So I would define this as a developed open space. So taking that into account, kind of defensible space across property lines, yes, the International Urban Interface Wildlife Urban, International Wildland Urban Interface Code basically points to the fact that yes, defensible space can cross property lines, and it's defensible space is setback. It's a buffer area. More than anything, only the city of Boise in that one line has used the word setback, and that's the only place that occurs anywhere in my searching. So we have this property, we have our setbacks that are existing, and we have an existing defensible zone. I guess those got kind of mixed up. So the existing defensible zone from the existing residential structures clearly cross the property line and into the reserve. And the neighbors all along there have been taking care of the defensible space from their property out into the urban, into the reserve area. And in some cases, they've actually gone and gotten permits from the city to do so. I don't think everyone does, but clearly they're doing it because they recognize that the 30-foot defensible zone can't all be on one property. So the existing defensible space, even for my client's property, is already going out into the open space. And if you look at what happens when we add the proposed expansion to the house that gets us down to about a 15-foot setback from the property line, it does push the defensible zone out into the open space, but it doesn't make it worse. It's right in line with what the existing 30-foot defensible space is for the property. So by my definition, this is actually not making it worse by my take. The other WUI standards will make sure that we have non-combustible construction and other aspects to make sure that this building doesn't burn, unlike their neighbors that are all wood. So I would actually proffer that this is improving upon the defensible space requirement of the zoning code, and that we are meeting the intent of the defensible space part of the zoning code and the International Wildland Urban Interface Code. As a registered architect, health, safety, and welfare is our prime goal. I mean, that's our license, is health, safety, and welfare of the general public. I would not be proffering something out here that I felt was dangerous to the general public. Again, it's an existing condition. We're not making it worse. I'm just going through my notes here, make sure I hit every item. And I think that pretty much covers all my comments for that. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hagan. Is there anybody here from the Foothills Neighborhood Association? What?
The East End, Mr. Gillespie.
For ENA? Anyone here from ENA here or online? Okay. I don't have anybody on the sign up sheets, which I'm now going to turn in before I forget, take them home. Is there anybody online who'd like to testify on this item?
There's no one online, Mr. Gillespie.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes for rebuttal. Okay. This is a rebuttal. The applicant is waiving right to rebuttal. So the issue is before me. So I ruled to deny the variance request for the reasons stated in the staff report. And in particular, I just want to essentially address what amounts to, what I would call a technical disagreement about how to interpret a lot of language in the code and what this international standard means. Because you also, Mr. Hagan, referenced in your testimony the kind of the international firefighter standard. So when a technical difference or disagreement comes before me, I do two things. First, I look to what do the city's experts say. So the city has various engineering and technical talent, and most applications are run by those folks. So the fire department got your application, letter dated July 28th, 2025. Mr. Bassanio wrote that the fire department has reviewed and cannot approve the application, and then offered the reason which you cited, which is Boise City Code 512-53, which to me is fairly unambiguous in saying that we cannot build structures in the 30-foot WUI setback to the property line. I disagree with your assessment that setback could go over onto other people or other entities' property for several reasons. One is this permit is about this property. I can't do anything to bind the person on the other side of the line that you're relying on for open space. I can't in any way bind them to protect that open space in this permit hearing, right? I can't in this hearing write a condition on this variance that says you, the city, have to maintain the undeveloped open character of that part of the land. So just technically I can't do that. So relying on it to me is inappropriate, especially on a fire safety issue. That in a nutshell is why I made the decision the way I did. So thank you very much. All right. Number 3. Wait, Miss Mbappe, you got all 3 tonight. Wait. Oh, I'm on 1. Sorry. Wait, wrong page. Mr. Exton.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Gillespie. Before you today are variance requests associated with Capitol High School's proposed site improvements. The 34.27 acre site is located on the corner of Milwaukee Street and Goddard Road. The school is adjacent to Milwaukee Park with the Settler Canal Path and Spalding Ranch Park, both in the immediate area. As summarized on screen and in your project report, there are multiple variance requests, and the planning team is not supportive of 2 of the requests. Following conversations with the applicant this afternoon, the applicant has agreed to the staff recommendations and conditions of approval with a request to remove condition 3 related to the Tuttle Spalding pathway. The applicant will be able to provide more information on the concerns they have with condition 3 shown on the screen. The planning team finds that the condition is crucial to being able to grant the variance for maintaining the attached sidewalk along Goddard Road, as the related public pathway provides the preferred east-west pedestrian route for the site. By providing the pathway along the southern property line, it creates a permanent direct pedestrian connection from Milwaukee Street all the way to Cole Road without the presence of vehicles. While the Settlers Canal Path has recently opened along the north side of Goddard Road, opposite of Capitol High School, there are a few safe pedestrian crossings near the site to access the detached path that runs through the park. If the applicant is unable or unwilling to provide the attached sidewalk, oh, sorry, my bad. The applicant is unable or unwilling to provide the permanent and public pathway, the planning team cannot support the variance request to maintain the attached sidewalk along Goddard Road. While trees and utility infrastructure may be considered hardships to the site, they're not necessarily unique to the site itself and typically do not constitute enough of a hardship to grant the variance. The planning team would be amenable to the revised condition as shown on screen, which changes the timing to be reflective of the grading permit rather than the design review approval. Additionally, this condition specifies the location of the pedestrian connections with flexibility for future design phases. Alternatively, the planning team would recommend requiring detached sidewalk along the entirety of Goddard Road, denying the variance request. And I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Is the applicant ready?
Chad Lorenzen, landscape architect from the Land Group, 462 East Shore Drive, Suite 100 in Eagle, Idaho, 83616. I'm here representing the Boise School District. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Examiner Gillespie as well. Just want to give a brief overview of the project and then speak more specifically to the variances. So this particular project, it proposes a modernization of the site of Capitol High School to improve the function and circulation, safety, and aesthetics. The variance process is unique to this use, and we do want to kind of set up the general conditions here and the expectations that a public high school is a really unique user group. There are 1,300 students and staff that move in and out each day. It does answer to public pockets or pocketbooks. So again, keeping in mind that this is serving a great number of people and becoming a community asset in a lot of ways that many users are simply not beholden to. So simply stated, and as we mentioned, the Star Motorcycle program uses a site. It's used for polling and voting locations, community gathering, state sporting events, and of course, its primary functions of educating and creating responsible citizens. So we just want to keep in mind that this is not a Costco. No offense to Costco, but I'm not here to represent Costco. This is a really unique and special use group that's trying to address the challenges of the site. Also want to speak briefly to the overall challenge of the site. As Doug mentioned, it's approximately 35 acres, and typical new construction high school is approximately 25 to 30 acres larger than that. So there are spatial constraints to accomplish all of the uses that were noted. I also want to just briefly thank Crystal, Kevin, and Doug for about six months worth of engagement on this. We've spoken with them, and I believe that there's been great open communication throughout the process. Next slide, please. So with that in mind, the simple statement here is that the district supports planning staff's recommendations. Those are summarized on page 2 of the project report. So of course, we support the approval, the recommendation for approval, but we also understand and acknowledge the denial recommendation as well. If you'd move to the next slide. Just simply put here, there are 2 design updates that we've made in conversations with the city. And those include removing the request for the short-term bike parking count variance request. And so essentially we're going to provide the 365 short-term bike parking stalls to comply with that provision in code. And then the second element on the right-hand side of your screen there is we understand the city's stance on adding parking islands in area B, which is the red box there. Simply because some of the uses do not have the same spatial constraints in that location. So while, of course, we would certainly welcome Examiner Gillespie going a different direction with that. We are willing to actually make those changes to get on the same page as staff. If you would move to the next slide. So the one element that we do want to discuss and consider a little bit more is condition number 3 that's on page 13 of the project report. And this particular, I'm going to actually take a moment just to read the clip that's in the box there under number 3. It says, prior to design review approval, the applicant will grant the city a permanent multi-use pathway easement along the length of the southern property boundary of both parcels and of sufficient width for the city to construct and maintain a 10-foot wide paved multi-use pathway with signage, fencing, and other pathway features as determined by city planning staff. So we see a few challenges with this, primarily related to the lack of certainty. If you look at the top comment there, I'm sure there would be many folks teachers at Capitol High School that would not support how many words I used on this sheet, this slide here. Sorry, it couldn't quite be brief enough. But the first thing is it does create an unnecessary and largely unrelated encumbrance to the parking lot replacement. Really, these are 2 unique discussions that are happening, and the latest design plans that we have are 60% design drawings for the Spalding-Tuttle pathway. And so simply put, it's just not far enough along for us to have a degree of comfort with what's being proposed. Second point on there is that it dictates the design review approval schedule. That's a challenge, and it bases it on the engineering and review and approval of a third party, somebody who Capitol High School and the land group cannot control. We simply can't control that timeline, and as a result, it puts kind of an unnecessary schedule and bidding encumbrance on this project. The third element on there, it dictates the specific legal mechanism for access, and we don't necessarily think that that's appropriate. So it claims that an easement would be allowed. From what I understand, the school district has used long-term license agreements for this type of mechanism in the past. I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is just that word in there does kind of condition this in a way that might not be appropriate and might restrict how that other project moves forward. And the last element there is probably the most important, I would argue. The phrase other pathway features, it is vague, and it does encumber this project with something that does not have quite enough detail at this point. So really at this point, that's the one element that we'd want for there to be further discussion on. And we're happy to consider that as well. If you move on to the last two slides as well. This is going to be pretty small to see, but the simple point here is that short-term bike parking has been accommodated throughout the site. There are 365 spaces that would be included. And then next slide, we'd be adding those three internal parking islands in red in area B. So at this point, that's all that I have prepared. Happy to stand for questions.
Thank you. Why don't you stay there for just a minute, Mr. Lorenzen, and we'll kind of go back and forth. A question for you, Mr. Exton. Can you go back to your alternative condition 3 language? And can you, so I'm just going to read it because that'll help me understand it. So this is for the Capitol High team of lawyers and stuff. So notice that they've gone to grading permits and not design review. So the grading permit schedule, my understanding or guess is that's more in your control as to when you apply for the grading permit. So it gets you out of a design review controlled cycle. And by the way, that's fairly standard language on how we gate things for meeting conditions. So to me, grading permits, I would accept that if all parties agree. The applicant city when you're going to establish a protective. So now the city's also saying, look, it's 10 feet wide and all those pathway features. So it kind of drops some of the vagueness. I suppose we could ask the city, and I'm going to in about 30 seconds, could they agree on a specific number like 15 feet wide or 12 feet wide? And would that help reduce some of your objections to the pathway? And Mr. Lorenzen, you can talk to those guys too.
Would you like to come up?
Or you can just yell. I don't care.
We thought changing language to multiple license.
Yes. So the applicant, so one of the members of the applicant's team just asked a question that Mr. Lorenzen just repeated.
Yes. So the comment there from Tom Willis, representative from the Boise School District, was asking if the language could be changed from an easement to a revocable license agreement.
So do you guys have a point of view? And then I'm going to ask some questions to the guys behind me.
Yes, Mr. Gillespie, I would say the planning team's view is we would not be supportive of a revocable license, just because of the fact that it's not necessarily permanent in use, and the school district could revoke access to that pathway if it is a revocable license. So that's part of the justification for granting that variance for the attached sidewalk along Goddard is the fact that it would be a permanent pathway accessible to the public in perpetuity.
Thank you, Mr. Exton. So Mr. Lorenzen and team, so the city's not happy with the revocability of license. You're not happy with the word easement. Is there another legal term we can try to substitute for easement? Because I understand that easement is a specific instrument. Is there a more general term for an irrevocable easement-like object that you would like to substitute? Or can you deal with easement? Because it sounds like the city isn't biting on your license idea. Yeah, why don't you come on up? Thank you, sir. And you guys can all come up and talk. It's okay. Just need your name and address for the record, sir.
Tom Willis, 406 Bitterroot Drive.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Mr. Lewis.
Willis.
Mr. Willis, sorry. I do that also.
So to be honest with you, we're not happy about this being sandwiched into this application at all.
Right.
So we think it's somewhat underhanded and it shouldn't be in place. So
okay.
With that being said, we typically run revocable license agreements and long-term agreements with Boise City with language in place that says, hey, you're going to have it for this many years. And if we try to build over that property or try to revoke it, we have to pay you out a certain dollar amount. So it works out well. It's done at the Boise High Pathway, and a number of other agreements that we've had. So if that makes sense to you, it's something that's been in place. Easements are forever. It limits our ability to grow that property out decades, centuries in advance, and we're just we're not willing to do that.
Right, understand. Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Gillespie, I will just point out, we did, the term easement was removed from this alternative condition you see here and replaced with an agreement, which would be negotiated separately in a hope that we could come to an understanding on what exactly the details look like.
But it says
without-
permanent.
It doesn't say permanent, yeah.
Right.
So the permanence would then be established
are
through an agreement.
You're okay? All right. Mr. Lewis, or Mr. Willis, come on back up.
Discussion, we're just pulling it from this application.
Okay,
Altogether.
so I'm ready to
Something
talk about
we can
that.
Have an agreement about later and discussions about on a different project.
So, Mr. Willis, the city's point of view is this is linked to the Goddard Street, basically pedestrian pathway. And I happen to agree with the city on this matter, that what the city's really after here is east-west connectivity, you know, and the city's right, in my opinion, looking at the flow and where people live and where they want to go, is much better to have people using this pathway on the south side of your property than walking up around Goddard. And that's why the city wants to put it here. I do think the city is in their legal rights to do so. A variance, you know, you're asking for a variance on Goddard. The city has the right to require compensation tied to that variance request, or compensation is the wrong word, mitigation. And I feel, and I agree with the city's argument that this is mitigation.
So,
So we're on the question and answer phase. We're not in the let's debate it with the hearing examiner phase. So you'll have rebuttal time when the rebuttal time comes. Okay. So I don't have anyone here. Is there anyone here to testify on this matter? Do you guys want to talk? Does any one of you want to testify on the matter? You will get rebuttal. There will be 5 minutes of rebuttal. Okay. Thank you. You bet. No, we'll do that. Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to call for public testimony and go through that cycle, which isn't going to take very long. Then we're going to go to a rebuttal period. You guys will have 5 minutes, and anybody from Capitol High team can talk in that rebuttal period. Okay, is there anybody here tonight who would like to testify on this matter? Is there anybody online tonight who'd like to testify in this matter?
No.
Okay, Mr. Lorenzen, you and your team now have up to 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Good afternoon.
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Gillespie. My name is Nick Smith.
Mr. Smith.
I live at 424 East Carter Street, Boise, Idaho. I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Operations for the Boise School District. I have been in many of the conversations, if not all the conversations, on the pathway that is in question. And we've had a lot of productive meetings where we've been working on the design and the route and all of those things.
Great.
And so and we've been very supportive all along of that pathway. for that pathway to come into this conversation in the final minutes of our work was really a surprise for us, because we've been working with other entities with the city all along on that pathway. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you.
The other thing that I want to point out is the city of Boise owns the property directly south of Capitol High School where this path is going. So the path they're asking for a permanent easement, whatever you want to call it, on Boise School District property. But if you were to look at a map, the city owns the land directly south of where we're talking. But they've chosen to run this path directly through the Boise School District property, which we've been working with and agreeing and been supportive of this project. I think it's important to note that we are having to abandon a softball field to make this work. We're having to tear out a softball field because it's going to run through the corner of our softball field just for this path to work. So to say that you're concerned about the district and the fact that we may back out of this in the future, I think is a challenging situation when we are literally tearing out a softball field for this project, and going to have to make other improvements across the district to accommodate our softball program. So I just wanted that to be noted, that the city owns the property directly south. If they wanted to, they could completely bypass the district and run that right down their property line, by dog-legging that path a few feet, frankly. So.
Thank you, sir. Any other rebuttal? All right, the matter is before me. Can we leave that alternative condition just where it is? Let me ask a point of clarification, make sure, just on all the other stuff without condition 3, the staff report reflects, well, I don't even need to ask. Never mind. So basically my decision is to recommend approval of the variances but deny in part the parts of the variances outlined in the staff report. So that means denying the variance, I believe, for the reduction in the number of short-term bicycle parking spaces, but allowing for site-wide placement. And it means denying the variance for Lot B and requiring code compliance, which, as I understand it, is installation of islands and some code-approved lighting. My understanding from the discussion was that the light height was not changed, or variance wasn't requested in Lot B. So that will remain, that part of the staff report is also undisturbed. So with respect to condition 3, I'm going to approve the alternative language as suggested by Mr. Exton, and is on the board now. And I would simply like to add that I'd like to add a new sentence that says something like, and I'll let the lawyers fuss it up, but at the city's discretion, this condition may be dropped. And what I mean by that is, I think if the city determines that there's other ways to get the path that don't require Boise City School District land, or if the city wants to say split the 15 feet in some areas to give that, to reduce the burden on the school district, I'm supportive of the city being able to do that if the city agrees. the way it's written now is the city and the applicant will enter. I don't want to say may, because I do want an agreement, but I want the city to have the ability to say, okay, we're going to respond to the school district's, the last nice fellow who spoke. Sorry, I can't remember your name. You know, he was raising a good point, and I want the city to, you know, if it comes to pass that you need to modify, amend, or drop this, I want you have the ability to do so. So that's my ruling. Thank you very much. Oh, one more thing. The minutes from the last, is it the last meeting? Which was, so the June 25th meeting, meeting minutes from the hearing examiner, unless somebody has any comment on them. Nope. Okay. They're approved. All right. Thank you all very much. By the way, thanks to the school district. That's you know, we did bite off a lot on that one, and I appreciate that. Good luck.